the principals of NERA, who are going to share with you what transpired at today's meeting and the way forward. So that, let me just start by way of introduction. Mr. Jacob Ngaro Vundu is the president of the Transparency International. Transform Zimbabwe. Transform Zimbabwe, Mr. President, my apologies. Maslin Shikasha, President PGZ, ADP, sorry. Then the too many blunders today. Mr. Mponda of the Freedom Fund, Manzukuru Masmutasa of the People's First, and Vice Chairman of the MDC, Wamoke Komich, is leader of our secretariat. So without much ado, I hand you over to Madame Chikashi.
Good afternoon, everyone. In our engagement today with ZEC, as NERA, we were very disappointed in a number of issues and the lack of sincerity on the part of ZEC. We felt that they were not engaging from a sincere perspective, and we had quite a number of issues that we had with them. This issue that we had was the invitations to this meeting were sent on the 2nd of September, and the closing deadline for questions was actually the 30th of August, which means that we only got invitations, that opening for us to raise our questions and issues with ZEC after they'd already closed off. The second issue, when we got to ZEC today, we were harassed at the entrance. There were some ZRP representatives. It was a very intimidating outlook in general, where there was a lot of security and we did not feel free to actually air opinions in that very restrictive environment. Number three, we had an issue with the chairing of the meeting because we felt that ZEC invited us to a meeting for that meeting and then also chaired the meeting. So they were really behind the driving wheel, and we felt that we should have actually had another person who's neutral chairing that meeting, since we were the ones that wanted to have Rita Makarao and ZEC address certain concerns that we have. We also had an issue where a lot of NERA representatives were chucked out and told they could not enter the meeting. ZEC limited the meeting to one person per political party, which we felt was not very conducive to the kind of dialogue that we wanted to have with them. And it actually left us feeling a bit footed and awkward in that meeting because we were not with our compatriots who we've been working with all this time. Number five, we also noticed that there were a lot of parties in that meeting that we'd never heard of before. We believe that these were planted CIO operatives as political parties, and because of the system that was then used by the chair of putting everything to a vote, we found that we were outnumbered and outvoted, and this already shows that there was no sincerity in this endeavor to engage with ZEC. Number six, we also had an issue with the exclusion of technical people from that meeting, because there are certain issues that are better understood from a very technical perspective. But the way the meeting was conducted, limiting one representative per political party, saying that they don't recognize NERA, and saying that they didn't want any technical people to be in that meeting, meant that we were also not able to technically present our issues as we had discussed them during NERA meetings. Number seven, compiled a list of issues that they felt we had with them. Some of them were purported to come from certain political parties and so on. But when we looked at that list, issues were actually at the top. And we spent a lot of unnecessary time discussing things which really do not make a difference when it comes to elections in Zimbabwe. And we were unable to discuss things like voter registration, for example, which is something that we are really fighting to get them to be doing as of now. Again, left undiscussed because of the fact that they set the agenda and they determined how we discussed issues and which issues were discussed first. So in conclusion, as NERA, we're not happy with ZEC. We want them to be sincere in their engagement with us if they mean it, that they want to understand us and to know where we're coming from, to be confrontational. Then they must also show that sincerity when we go for these meetings and address these issues as we do today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Questions? The press, identify yourself and then your question. Your media, yourself, your media house, and your question. Yes, let me start with the Herald.
Just a clarification. So in light of this meeting and disappointment, what's next for NERA? Will the strike protest continue on Friday or Saturday? What's the position?
Okay, I think she's noting the question. Let's have the next question. Yes.
Did you let ZEC know your concerns, especially the issue of the involvement of Justice Rita Makarao, despite the fact that she could have been in the meeting and she was actually calling the shots? This is actually something that was actually contained in the petition that you wanted to present after the protest.
Thank you very much. Sorry.
I understand you have another meeting with the ZEC on the 15th, should be something like that. Okay. I just wanted to find out on this previous meeting, the meeting that we had today, we called the meeting and why did in the first place did you accept being asked to send questions in advance? Before you attend the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. The first question I'll hand over to Mr. President Jacob Ngani from Transform Zimbabwe. The second question I'll hand over to Mr. Cosmas Mukonda, and then I'll take care of the show.
Thank you. The question to say, so what's next? NERA has always been that we are fully aware that no change will come on a silver platter. We are employing all means at our disposal. Judicial, extrajudicial, will be in the streets demonstrating. And for your own information, this Saturday, we have organized 210 demonstrations throughout the country to force ZEC to accept the form. And this is going to continue. Nothing is going to stop. We are going to continue fighting. We are going to continue to make sure that we demonstrate and language they understand. One of the things that happened, as we're informed from the meetings, that there were all sorts of parties, including OKMAT. There's a party listed on the name OKMAT Zimbabwe. I mean, it's just. In fact, there came a time that I'm told there was supposed to be a vote to say, can Rita chair the meeting? And all the OKMAs and they voted that Rita Makarao chair the meeting. So in fact, you could see that they've started the rigging process already. That's what they always do. And we are going to make sure that we fight them. And we are going to be in the streets using our constitutional rights to demonstrate and make sure that there is change. There's no turning back on that.
On the second question, that says that the ZEC know of the concerns. Yes, ZEC does know very well of the concerns of the opposition political parties, and it is pretending as if it doesn't know. They are pretending to be ignorant. They just want to be ignorant, and we want them to swallow their pride. And they are very, very arrogant, and they are very, very, they are very arrogant in the way they are handling their business, and they are very impartial, very, very dishonest indeed. They are not straight to the point, and we are not going to go back. They are pretending as if they don't know what we want, and it's not even legitimate. When we talk of ZEC, ZEC is not legitimate in the sense that it is not independent. It is an independent. It is not an independent body. Yet, according to the constitution, it is supposed to be independent. And they know very well what we want, what we are calling for. We want reforms. We want them to take heed of our calls as opposition parties, and they are pretending as if they don't know what we want. And so they are going to continue with the fight.
Okay, and I'll take the last question. Another meeting with ZIC. It's been set for the 10th. Thought about this thoroughly as opposition political parties, and we believe that it's folly for us not to engage with ZIC. We need to at least push the agenda of free and fair elections with the body and overseas elections in Zimbabwe, ZIC. So we will not disengage, but when we are not happy, we are going to indicate to them that we're not happy. We want to have small victories after all the, each and every meeting. We're yet to witness that, but we believe that engagement is the only way forward. We completely disengage from the body that runs elections.
Thank you very much. I think just to confirm the bogus nature of some of the political parties, before the meeting started, some of the political parties actually requested for a ZRP be part of the meeting. And that confirmed to us that this was completely bogus. Yes.
My question was not answered. Why did you accept the idea of sending questions in the test?
Well, the NERA did not completely accept that. In fact, NERA, that is why the NERA issues were not entertained, because they were not part of the forwarded questions. Parties had already in previous meetings, before even the formation of NERA, indicated their areas of concern. But as NERA, we did not think it was wise to be asked to put questions in advance, because that was completely unnecessary. As NERA, we are not going to worry much about how they want to abrogate our rights. We are going to fight. We are going to take the wisdom of Jose Marti, the Cuban hero. Rights are not asked for, they are demanded. They are not freely given, they are taken.
Okay, thank you. My question relates to recent utterances by ministers within the Electoral party. There will be no more electoral reforms. So in light of that, number one, what strategies do you have as NERA to counter that? If they stick to that, are you going to participate with different political parties on a day?
I think that bridge will, cross it when we get to it, whether we participate in 2018 or not. But they've uttered those things, but in the background, there's obviously some kind of panic, which is why they're willing to engage with us, even though it's not exactly in the format and the way that we wish it to be. But you can see that they're talking left and walking right. So we, as everyone is correctly saying, we're going to push from all fronts because we want our freedom and we want elections in Zimbabwe to be free and fair. So we're not just going to fold our hands and listen to those comments. We're going to really take hold of our rights and try and panel beat ZIC until it's the institution that we want it to be.
Yeah, if I may come in and add, you see, we in the first place, we never expected ZANU-PF or ZEC to reform. We knew they were going to resist. And that's why our strategies have been centered around our expectation that they would resist that change. And which means we have to fight. And the more they actually say that, the more they say we are not going to reform ourselves out of power, the more our resolve becomes to make sure that we fight for electoral reform. And we are fighting until we have the reforms before the next election. There's no question as of what happens if they don't, because we are going to fight until they reform. We are going to fight until we ensure there are reforms. So we are pretty prepared for that battle. No matter how long it takes, we are going to make sure that we keep fighting until there are reforms that will enable a free and fair engagement at an election.
Thank you very much. I will take 3 last questions, starting with the gentleman in the striped shirt.
When you say electoral reforms, are you talking about amendments to the Electoral Act or implementation of the Act as it stands today?
Sorry?
When you talk about electoral reforms, are you talking about amendments to the Electoral Act, or are you talking about implementation of the Act as it stands today?
Yes, it includes what we are fighting for includes that. Let's take, for instance, the clause that is asking for that talks of the assisted voters, whereby the ruling government is taking advantage of those people who in the rural areas and in the remote areas, and then they say almost everyone in the rural or in the remote areas, they pretend to be illiterate when it comes to voting. And yet we all know that those people can be literate. Those are some areas that need amendment. Those areas need amendment, of course. So that's what we are pushing for.
Okay. If I may just add, simply put, what NERA's case is that we want those reforms that guarantee the secrecy of the vote, the security of the vote, and the security of the voter. And this includes amendment to the Constitution, amendment of laws that don't facilitate free and fair elections, including the Electoral Act. It also includes implementation of the SADC guidelines on free and fair elections and the international practices and conventions. It also includes a credible voters law. So in the NERA document, you find what we mean by electoral reforms.
If someone is illiterate, let him get into the ballot, spoil your paper, and go. If he is blind, if he needs assistance, well, maybe we give him a break. That's all.
I will ask two questions, which I hope you will take as one. First, you said the demonstration will be on the 17th and not 16th. 17th happens to be a weekend. Do you think it will be as effective? And second, I would like to know, are you complimenting the efforts you are putting in pressuring for electoral reforms into also action, say, towards helping in voter registration, because it's not actually happening practically in the field. People are unaware out there.
The question is why demonstrate on the 17th on a weekend?
Sure. I'll take that. Okay. The demonstration, yes, is on Saturday, the 17th. The reason being, this is a nationwide demonstration, and these demonstrations are happening in every constituency. So we wanted to make sure that, for those who are working, who will be in town, they want to go, they want to have a chance to demonstrate in their constituencies. So if you are coming from Kwadzana, you want to make sure that on Saturday, you are not in town, you are not working, you are in Kwadzana, you participate in the demonstration. If you are in Glenview, the same thing. So that's the sole reason we ensure that let this be a weekend to enable participants to that demonstration to be in their areas of demonstrations. So yes, we're going to have that. You have come to the other question to say, what are we doing about voter registration? We are very much aware that there is need for voter registration and voter education. These are some of the solid demands that we have as NERA to ensure that there is a very transparent process of voter education and voter registration. And we also understand that ZEC would like to introduce the BVR, the biometric voter registration system. And we want to make sure that all those things are clear. That's why even we also, in as much as we are fighting to ensure that there's electoral reform, we are also engaging, because these are some of the platforms where we should talk comprehensively about voter education and voter registration. So that's why we're also engaging. So we are very much aware of the need for us to make sure that we're fighting at all those fronts.
Everson Shower, before I finish with the most important men in the house.
The question is, he said the protest will be held on the 17th. They said, have you notified the police? And in the event that, he has been the habit, you are denied, what is your second option? Maybe I also want to take an opportunity to ask, the constitution says you have to notify the police, but the police have taken any notification as an application, whether they will deny or accept the contrary with the constitution. Why have you not taken the matter up with the court?
Well, first, the police have behaved unconstitutionally for a very long time now. The constitution is very, very clear. we notify the police. And the logic of notifying the police is so that they maintain law and order and protect the demonstrators and members of the public. What the police have done is to take the opportunity to harass the demonstrators and members of the public. As you saw, most of the violence by the police took place outside the route of our demonstration. And your question was, the other question was on
why is you not taking the matter up with the courts that the police are misinterpreting the constitution, taking a notification to be an application which they can accept?
We have argued that time without number. But coming to your first question regarding whether we have notified the police and so on, you will remember that we, after the 12th of August, we issued a notification to the police. They denied us on the 15th of August. We went to court. After that, we won our court case. We were unable to do our demonstration sanctioned by the courts because the police just interfered. This is the demonstration that we are doing on the 17th. But for the sake of completeness, we have notified them. But that's not only all. Now the courts have pronounced that the statutory instrument that was promulgated by the police is null and void. This was the first time in the world legal history where policemen were making laws. So we had a statutory instrument made by a policeman, such a legal embarrassment in the world. So we are going ahead with the demonstration with or without their blessing. We don't need their permission. We have the law in our hands, in our favor. We are not about to negotiate the constitution with Mugabe because the constitution was negotiated in 2013 and Mr. Mugabe signed it. We are enforcing that which he signed, and we are sure we are right. Now, the last question from Mr. Mugabe from the Herald.
Don't you think that as NERA, you are just being creditors in this whole process? You clearly indicated on the onset that you were outnumbered in the vote that was taken to JXA offices. What evidence do you have to prove that okay, Martin and Ivan were not bona fide political parties that truly express their right and vote against your wishes to JXA offices?
Well, we are not a crybaby, certainly. That is why we were able to bring the town to a standstill. Harare cannot be brought to a standstill by crybabies.
But okay, Martin, other political parties voted against you today into announcing that they are not political parties. What evidence do you have to prove that they are CIO members?
What evidence do we have that they are political parties? The issue is the test of whether they are political parties or not is an objective test. You must have heard about them. You must have seen them. They cannot be political parties for purposes of a ZEC meeting. Where a political party exists for purposes of going to a ZEC meeting where they will vote in favor of having the CIO and the police operatives in a meeting of political parties and ZEC, then that political party is bogus. It is not well, rights are subject to the rights of others, isn't it? But objectively speaking, this political party has never been heard of. One of the political parties, it is the name of a football team in Zambia. Yes, yes, and there is one called Zoop, ZOOPP. If I was to ask you, you will not remember them. But definitely the ZEC and Ms. Makarau were trying to be too clever by half. They don't want to address the real issues. Fortunately, NERA saw through their plans, and NERA is going to push until Justice Makarau and her outfit see that Zimbabweans are serious. We cannot allow a Zimbabwe Election Commission with a committee which is 7 members from the president's office. That cannot be an independent commission. An independent commission means a commission independent of the executive. It cannot be independent of the executive if it is people from the president's office, people from foreign affairs, people from local government, even officials.
And
let me, before I give to President Ponda, I'll give to the convener of AMTAS, then Wamponda.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Mikabi. Whether you are telling us, in fact, those are bona fide political parties, and whether you have written anything about being a political party.
May you come again?
Oh, well, he is saying, have you written any report during
But
your
the fact that we haven't written anything about them doesn't mean they don't really exist.
Well, to us, they don't exist because you haven't written anything about them. And you are arguing as if you know that they are.
The other proof that we have that these parties are bogus is that they were against other opposition parties, whatever motions were given in the House. So obviously, that's what it says.
completely pro-establishment, completely bogus, objective.
Can you object against your brothers and sisters?
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the short notice. It was because of the dictates of the situation. I want to thank Madam